This is a Bitcoin daily chart. Really ugly day for crypto, really ugly day for Bitcoin, but so explainable. And I'm going to break down exactly what happened right here from a structured standpoint, technical analysis standpoint. Very, very nice structure. And I want to talk about that. I'll explain it very quickly, even at the beginning of the video. ADA, just if you're going to open up an ADA daily chart, it's an ugly chart. If you're an ADA holder, it's not enjoyable right now. What's happening here, not the break that we wanted to see. I'm going to break down the ADA chart. So hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let's jump into the video. I don't want to take a ton of time to explain the move. And this is what it looks like on the daily chart. To explain what's happening here, there was an article posted around 4 days ago based on I think it was a Sunday night video to start this week that I did. Dan Gambardella thinks Bitcoin is preparing for significant rally after consolidation. According to Gambardella, Bitcoin's rally depends on a pullback in the dollar index. Bitcoin will surge if it breaks above current resistance. Otherwise, the price could drop to 65,000. What happened? That was the analysis, and this is the week has played out, and this is what has happened. Bitcoin is broken down to $65,000. And why is that? Well, there's the US dollar currency index on the 4-hour. It was not a bearish week for the US dollar currency index. If I go to the weekly chart, there's that green candle. So the bullish case for Bitcoin going into the start of the new week was a breakout for Bitcoin if US dollar currency index would kind of see a lower high on this chart, right? And just actually start falling, maybe even sideways. But that did not happen. This chart broke out to the upside. And what we're seeing play out right now is Bitcoin has started falling on the weekly, on the daily. It is right within the symmetrical triangle that we've been discussing. So before we dive into what's next with this short-term price action on the daily chart, let's tell the story real quick, zoomed out. Red monthly candle with still 18 days left around at the month of halving. The halving is like a week away, everybody. I just want to show you something. As a reminder, here's 2 halvings ago in 2016. What did Bitcoin do? Red month that month. And then the next month, capitulating to the downside. Red month. Bitcoin falling before going higher. I think that's incredibly important to note that. And the other thing, even in that same bull cycle that I want to make a note of on this Bitcoin chart, and this is a monthly, but it was what's happening here. If we go look at the weekly chart, and here's the weekly chart, what's happening there, if we go back, check it out. Bitcoin falling all the way down to this 20-week moving average, maybe more importantly to this rectangle that you see here, that's a lower high Fibonacci bull market door area that Bitcoin broke through and then fell back to test. And if we go look at the chart right now for Bitcoin, Bitcoin's not even there yet, right? There's our Fibonacci bull market door area, important indicator for me, as many of you know, but Bitcoin's not even there yet. But that has been in play. It really has been in play. Now on this weekly, before we dive into the shorter term price action of Bitcoin, on the weekly chart, you can just see we broke out of this rising wedge that you see there in February, consolidating for a while, for over a month now. And right now we're putting in a red weekly candle. We haven't thrown back to the ascending rising wedge that we see there. We haven't thrown back to it yet, but it is in play, and it has been in play. And we'll see that on the daily chart that we're about to look at. But if you look at this right now, we have the 20-week moving average kind of just steadily rising. There's been crazy overextension for Bitcoin. So whether Bitcoin is going to be sideways as the 20-week moving average pulls into Bitcoin, or Bitcoin's just going to fall to meet the 20-week moving average, that's a very normal move on this chart. I just want to say that. Now, the other thing at the apex of the rising wedge that I just want to make a reminder of is the bull market doors are here. And Bitcoin has fallen to this area before in a previous cycle. Not last cycle, but the previous cycle before that in 2017. Bitcoin made that move. All of this is happening before the Bitcoin halving. Want to make a note of that as well. So normal on the weekly, we get breakouts. Normal, we talk about all the time, throwbacks to patterns before continuation, right? And there's a case where going into halving, this is going to happen. But let's go to the daily chart to help guide us on the shorter term to say, well, what should I watch for? Well, the beginning of the week, we were watching for 65,000, mainly because we were saying, you know what? Here's our structure. We want to see Bitcoin break out, right? And we want to see it break all-time high. If US dollar currency index can fall, that could be the case for Bitcoin to really start getting a breakout to the upside. If it's not going to happen, what's going to happen for higher low areas for Bitcoin, right? And that's down here in the $65,000 range. And and US dollar currency index pumped, Bitcoin and crypto fell, and Bitcoin fell back into basically the apex of the triangle. And we see actually, even on this daily chart, there's still 4.5 hours left basically, but you can see Bitcoin just testing that 50-day moving average on this chart. So it's a really key area of support, the 50-day, the lower trend line. But again, zoomed out, what's down here? The apex of that rising wedge, confluent with the bull market doors. It is all in play. And if you look at the target out of this symmetrical triangle, that's down here in the lower 50s. So I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen. Maybe Bitcoin does continue to fall down a little bit. Maybe we get support before hitting a target and we get a kind of a fake out and a pullback into the pattern. And we're testing support just above the rising wedge. Who knows exactly how this could play out, but I think it's been a good idea to follow this structure. I think it's been very helpful. We did not get any bullish confirmation that we were waiting for. And in fact, right now we're at a $65,000 area support that we were talking about earlier in the week. And now we just monitor to see what happens at the apex. Do we get the break to the downside? Is Bitcoin going to start consolidating to apex and start breaking to the upside? Things can turn around very quickly. But this is what I'll be watching as we go into this weekend, and wanted to make just a note in terms of the shorter term price action of Bitcoin. It really is very explainable in a non-emotional, just technical analysis way. And you can see that very clearly on this chart. It is what it is. It's not enjoyable. What makes it most enjoyable or unenjoyable for altcoin holders is the fact that Bitcoin's down, altcoins down even more. And that's why we have this ADA chart on the daily looking very ugly. So let's zoom out and then we'll talk about the zoomed in. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday's video, I did analysis on Cardano, and it's very much been trying to, I've been talking a lot about this area back here because this is when the bull market doors for Bitcoin were broken last cycle. This is when all-time high was being broken for Bitcoin last cycle. And there's just a very similar move, right, in structure for ADA on the chart. So I've been very much comparing the two. And I want to admit right here in this video, and we know this, right? We know that history doesn't mean it's going to repeat and we're going to get that breakout. But clearly, history did not repeat where we see support above the 20-week moving average after this consolidation. Whether it's into halving, how sideways it is, doesn't matter, but we didn't get the continuation to the upside. This is a very clear, unless in the next 2 days, 5 hours, ADA puts in a crazy bounce back towards this level, there's been a clear divergence from last cycle. And I'm just going to point that out because that's what I'm doing here. I'm tracking the data. I'm trying to prepare for anything. In yesterday's video, though, we did mention another key data point because there's 3 data points. There's the Bitcoin halving in these 2 cycles in terms of where we are, right? This time it's not even halving. Last time it was all happening after halving. There is the bull market door area, right? And that is back here. That's where we found that similarity in terms of the structure happening here, Bitcoin breaking bull market doors. And then the other piece of data was the 20-week and the 50-week, right? The blue line and the green line. There's that shift out of the bear market. We see the 20-week pumping above the 50-week. And this very similar thing happened last cycle, 20-week above the 50-week. And ADA pumped, and then it consolidated between the two for a while. And there was a very big dip there. And I've not talked a lot about this dip because that's a 55% dip. I haven't talked about it because in terms of structure, we were kind of comparing that dip to this back here. Now, clearly, there's starting to be some similarities between this dip and this dip because we're revisiting between the 20 and the 50-week moving average. So in terms of all of these 3 data points, the halving, the bull market doors, the 20 and 50 moving average, this is kind of where I am personally looking to ADA charts for some guidance on what to look for. And what I mean by that is at this point, the halving and the bull market doors, Bitcoin breaking all-time high, that's still important to me very much, especially because we're approaching halving. So from a cycle perspective, it is all very much important context to the chart. But right now, we have that 3rd data point, and that is to say this 20-week moving average and 50-week moving average, what is going to happen with ADA right now? Is ADA, this is the question. We're at 48 cents right now to do this video. Is ADA going to close any weekly candles below this 50-week moving average, 41 cents? That would not be the best thing. It really would not be the best thing for ADA. I don't want to just start doing analysis on that just yet. I want to watch. Same with Bitcoin. I want to see how the weekly candle closes this week. There's still just over 2 days left of the weekly candle. The same is true for ADA. I want to see what happens with this weekly on the ADA charts and how ADA interacts between these two areas, the 50 and the 20-week moving average. If we go into the actual daily structure of ADA, if we're in this environment, and this is not fun to do this, I should say that. I like doing bullish videos where Bitcoin's breaking to the upside, altcoins are breaking to the upside. If we fall into this environment where the 50-day fails on Bitcoin, the lower trend line fails on Bitcoin, US dollar currency index keeps pumping, crypto keeps falling. If we look at this ADA daily chart, it is very clear. And it's very clear because we've been tracking the structure for a while now, right? This lower trend line is going back to like November 2023. We've been tracking this structure for a while. Truly, we were tracking the bullish case as well, where ADA just continues to the upside going into halving. There is a case for targets to be hit. That's 30 cents. That is just a very clear throwback to this descending triangle that Cardano broke out of all the way back here in November. I'm not sitting here saying that I think it's going to happen. You all know we've been tracking this pattern. It has been in play. I haven't talked a lot about it because probably I don't want it to happen. And also because we are kind of entering this environment where we're going into Bitcoin halving. And if I just go back and I show you this ADA USD chart at Bitcoin halving last cycle, ADA was actually looking pretty bullish, right? It was making moves to the upside. So, it's not Bitcoin halving yet. Who knows what's going to happen in the next week? We will monitor. And for ADA on this chart, anytime we get a breakout, whether it is to the downside or even to the upside, when we get a breakout, we talk about throwbacks, we talk about pullbacks. So for me on the short term, what's happening even on the daily chart in the next 4.5 hours? Can ADA close above this 200-day moving average? Is there any case where ADA can start kind of pulling back to the pattern itself and start testing that area to see if it can reclaim some bullishness? Because just because it makes a move to the upside, that's not a bullish confirmation. It would have to break the resistance now to get back above this lower trend line of this pattern. But this is what I'm watching on ADA. Again, I really am curious to see what happens in the next 2 days. That is what I will be watching on both Bitcoin charts and ADA charts. Really curious to see how these weekly candles close. It's an ugly move. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not. At the end of the day, the biggest thing as I zoom out on an ADA chart, even on a Bitcoin chart, any chart, is consolidation is what it is. Dips are what they are. Things are ugly in the moment, but can we put in the higher low, right? Wherever that higher low will be. I should make a note, actually, 41 cents is the 50-week moving average. So if we're going to the daily chart, if this 200 fails, we'd be looking at right around here, 41 cents for a potential support bounce for ADA. And then all the while, we'll be watching and we'll be seeing what does, and I just lost the screen. We'll be watching what does ADA do, and we can look Bitcoin too, but what do these things do on the momentum oscillator? I should have talked more about this, but you can see the daily momentum oscillator on the RSI for ADA approaching oversold. So a bounce really could be in play maybe now, maybe in a couple of days, closer to the 41 cent, 50-week moving average area. But these are all the things I'll be watching. So I hope you're doing well out there, everybody, in this craziness. I really do. We'll continue tracking it, everybody. For me, it is so crucial to zoom out on all of these charts and understand that if we do zoom out on a chart, Bitcoin chart right here, even if you go to a weekly chart and you zoom out, I still truly think we are on pace. But there are a lot of moving parts to this, everybody. Haven't even discussed the macroeconomics of what's going on right now, and also the state of the world right now. It seems like all major countries preparing for war. Not great. That's not a good thing. Not even just for crypto. It's just not a good thing. So these are my thoughts. I hope you're doing well out there. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.